Hello, happy Friday. I'm Tova with Wellspring Counseling, and I'm here today to talk to you about intensives. And I've been a therapist since 1990 when I was two, and and just love working at Wellspring and being a part of all the things we get to do and bringing healing to people's lives. And with me today,
This is Nicole. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm a counselor here at Wellspring. Been here for now about 4 years. Been a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida for 12. And I'm excited to be here to talk about intensives.
all right. So, we're going to talk about intensives. So the first thing I want you to know is I'm going to share with you my screen. Hopefully, so here we are. We're not going to take very long, but we want to answer your questions about intensives. So first of all, let's just start with the obvious. So what's an intensive? All right, an intensive is where you do therapy intensively for several days in a row. So instead of that traditional once a week kind of model, it's maybe 2 to 5 days in a row with several hours a day of focused attention for the therapy.
Okay.
We also give private assignments. I guess it was all mine, right, Nicole?
Yeah.
All right, I'll keep going. So often we give private assignments. So you're there doing therapy for several hours, and then you go home and maybe journal or do other extra assignments. Intensives are also often for particularly specialized treatment, trauma being one of the most likely. When you do trauma work, it's often very much like doing surgery. So you wouldn't do surgery on an outpatient basis once a week. You get in and you don't leave until you're all patched back together and put back together. And sometimes trauma's like that, but maybe marital would be like that. People are going home and fighting, and you want to do an intensive marital. So sometimes it's a very specialized treatment. Often it includes some experiential therapies, not just talk therapy. So we add in maybe those homework assignments might include art or going out in nature, doing some things. And the intensives can be individual or group. And we'll talk more about that in just a minute. All right, let's talk about where, Nicole.
Awesome. So where can an intensive happen? So first of all, we have 7 locations. Wellspring has 7 locations around Miami. So that is a place where an intensive can happen on an individual basis with a clinician. And then, of course, in a rented retreat center, which we'll talk about later, which is where our next retreat center retreat will happen. And we can also have a hotel that we just to get a space there, and a church as well, and any private location that we may need to rent out or anything like that.
So they're individually scheduled, especially the individual ones, but and the retreat ones may be at different places at different times until someday God gives us a permanent retreat center, which I'm praying for, but we don't have that yet. All right, so who would benefit? Well, first of all, people who need to get well as fast as possible. So maybe somebody, and the second point here says immediate support to function. So those can cross over. So first of all, maybe you're already not functioning. If somebody is out of work, they're incapacitated, they're on disability, they're skipping school classes or whatever that is. And so they just need to go ahead and dive in and get their work done so they can move forward. But as fast as possible also includes just people who maybe are traveling, or it's an opportunity for them to just say, I just want to get over this and I want to get well, I want to move on, and I don't want to stretch it out over weeks.
Now, another reason why someone would benefit is because they need to coordinate their schedules accordingly. So they have to set up a time because their schedules are so busy that they need to just carve out that time, maybe for couples, and focus specifically on their self-care and getting better. And so
so couples who can never get their schedules to match, or people who can't drive across town, or they literally can never take those breaks, and so they end up with 3 and 4 weeks between sessions, and so they kind of start losing the momentum.
It's inconsistent. Exactly. It's inconsistent.
Obviously out of towners, and I think this is our most popular group that we have, is missionaries. We have a lot of missionaries who come because they're here on furlough, and they come in, we're Christian counseling, and maybe they've been kind of beat up in the field, or their family has been. And so people who are like missionaries, or maybe they're from a small town in the United States or something that doesn't have access to Christian counseling, and so they come down. Or we have a testimony later, but we had a woman who found us on the web and came down here from New York, and just as a business person, just figured she finally found us and found a way to get here. So,
and with that said, it's important to say that intensives are not that popular, and every state doesn't have a place where you can go and get an intensive. So the fact that we here in Florida have this and people can come here is wonderful. So that too, it's not common. Intensives are not something.
No, you and I had to fly to Phoenix. So
yes.
we'll tell you a little bit about our own intensives, but I did one in June this year. I flew all the way to Phoenix. We're not allowed to do therapy with each other. And so
we went out to find a Christian counselor that would do the work with us. And so
I had to go. We had to go that
we
far.
Had to
she
travel.
followed after me and did the same thing. So, and I'll tell you that self-care priority. It was a real challenge for me. I had to overcome. Was I worth it? Was I worth a plane flight and a hotel and all the money?
Not being at work.
Not being at work. And if I hadn't put a deposit down, I wouldn't have done it. I really would have bailed, because it's like, wow, I really am worth all that. And I'm like, I don't know, but I am.
You
and
are.
And you are.
And I actually have 2 young children, a husband and 2 young children, and I had to make sure that they were all set up for me to go for a week. But I did, and because self-care was a priority for me, and so it was for Tova, and so that's another reason why someone would benefit, because they really want to focus for an entire week on their self-care and getting better.
Awesome. All right. So what are the advantages? We've already started to hint at this, but the first is that you have more efficient therapeutic work. So you're not starting and stopping with that. So you do once a week, you tend to, catch up and what happened and all of that. And so you really efficiently, you actually do more work in the same amount of hours because you dive in and get to it.
Yes. And so with that comes healing sooner, because you're working a lot of time on that particular problem or issue or whatever. And what also comes with that is that you don't stop. So for example, you're in a session for an hour and you have to wait another week to get back into that topic. And sometimes we're just like, you know what, I'm not even going to get into that, because if I open that can of worms, and so this allows for you to open the can of worms.
Which talks about the deeper work.
Yes.
Because that deeper work happens. And, some of us, we want to get well, but we don't want to go deeper.
Hard.
And so that little 50-minute, your therapist looks at their watch and you just bail. so
I won't go there today.
Yeah. And maybe never. All right. Wait,
there's
actually a note at the bottom. Make that note.
So there's also important reduced total cost. So the advantage of going to an intensive is that the cost is reduced for the amount of work you do, and you do deeper work. And though it's really important for us to mention that this model does not guarantee a quick cure for all the emotional issues, but it does speed the process up.
So it might, if you have a whole lot of issues, it might be a jump start. Like you might clear the log jam or the traffic jam, whatever analogy you want to use, and get started. And for some people with a single trauma, it might actually just resolve it.
Yes.
But people come in with really complicated lives, and so there's no
lots of different things.
4 days and you'll never have another emotional issue to deal with.
Right.
I wish.
Yes. We'd be out of a job.
That's a good thing. That's a good goal. All right. So how much is it? Just to talk to you about it. So first of all, individual therapy is the same price per hour per session as any other therapy. So you do it just all at once. You still have those advantages of getting it done quickly, though. Groups and retreats are much less. They include more experiential, but they're much less for the price. They're really about the price of running groups, even though you do have some individual time in there. And so we'll compare those in a minute. I do want to say that we have contracted with patientfinancing.com, and that's a provider code. So if you need payment plans, you can apply with them, put our code in as a provider, and they will create a payment plan for you. And it's based, what that interest rate is or whatever, that's based on your credit, I think, and that kind of thing. So patientfinancing.com, and our code is there. And if you need that after the webinar, we'll send that code to you. I don't want to take just a second to talk about the difference between individual and group therapy. So I'll mention individual. First of all, if you do individual intensive, you're going to get more individual attention. You probably will cover a few more actual events because it's just you, and it's more individual therapy. You also have privacy because you don't have to share with anybody else. If that's really important on your issues, then individual will be a better match. And it's typically 3 days, 3 hours, maybe up to 15 hours in a week of therapy. And in terms of group,
oh, my turn. Yes. So groups. So now there's actually evidence that shows that when you're in a group setting, there's power in the fact that other people around you are also experiencing very similar feelings, very similar emotions to you, and it just there's a sense of normalcy in going.
I'm not alone.
Exactly, I'm not alone in this. Other people can support me. Other people are going through very hard things like me. So that's very important. And there is evidence that group therapy is very, very effective. Then retreat location and amenities. So the fact that you go to a place that has all this beautiful scenery and everything is done for you. You don't have to be the one to cook, and you don't have to take care of yourself in that area. You just take care of yourself in the emotional area.
Yeah.
And it just gives you that sense of relief that I can focus on myself fully. And there's no distractions. I have a family, and I would be distracted if I went home and had to, put them to bed and do the whole thing. And I could just focus on doing my homework and doing whatever I need to do. So that is great. The retreat location and amenities, more experiential therapies. So there's going to be other different types of ways to heal that are not talk therapy. Exactly. And so there'll be different things that we do that will enable more healing that oftentimes are not done in individual settings.
Right. And it takes some setup to do that.
Right. And so then there's a lower total price, of course. And when we talk about therapy hours, typically when you do group retreat setting, there's about 38 hours of work and of therapy that is being done compared to an individual, which is 9 to 15. Right. And of course, the cost is exactly. So those are the differences between individual and group retreat centers, type of therapy.
Okay.
Okay. So now we're gonna.
You want to say? And you already.
So okay. So I will because it's. I think it's important for you to know that here at Wellspring, we are just like you in the sense that we have things in our lives that happen to us. We have things that we need to work through. And so I was able to do a retreat in September, and I went on my own to Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you, Tova, for that referral. And I spent a whole week there working on my own healing. And, I asked my husband recently, what is it that you see changed in me? What is different about me from returning from that? And he said, you really healed your inner child. You really healed that little girl that was hurt, that was neglected, that was in pain. And that was great. And I mean, I feel that way, but I feel like even my husband can see the changes. My husband can see, and my kids, so it's just wonderful. There is a generational impact when you heal your pain. And so I loved it. It was great. I encourage people to do it because it just really changed me. Yeah.
And I did the similar thing and had my son-in-law say to me, you seem so much calmer. So that's really good. And we have up here the name for Tammy, who was the woman we mentioned who came down from New York recently. And we had her on there. She called in from New York on a radio show that you and I did. Yes. So if you guys would like to listen to that, you can find that on our blog, on our website, Get Well Faster, about intensives. And you can hear Tammy talk about her own personal testimony and the meaning of that for her. Yes. And so, or find it on your favorite podcast station on Wellspring on the Air.
That's right.
All right, it's time to hear from you. We're trying to keep this short and sweet, but we will answer any questions you have. So first of all, we have questions from you, and we might have some questions for you if you give us time to do that. So go ahead and type your questions in, and we will answer those. All right, I may ask you my questions then. How many people will be there? All right, that's a very good question. Thank you. We're not sure yet. Our capacity for this is 20, and we will cut it off at 20. So we're not there yet. So I'm not sure what our total number will be. We will have a therapist for every 4 or 5 people. So if we have that full amount, we'll have 4 therapists there, and for that 20 people plus me. And
I'm one of the clinicians as well that will be there. So
yeah, so I will be teaching, and Nicole will be one of the therapists, and we'll have others there per the number of total groups that we have. All right, there's a question for you.
Tell us more about experientials. Okay, so let me see. We're going to be doing, well, what we do in general, and so in some of the, I'm actually one of the, I work with one of our programs that we do for children and teens, and where what we do in those programs is where we do biofeedback. So that means that we teach the kids, learn how their breathing impacts them and their anxiety, and so they learn about breathing and how to calm themselves down. So that's one experiential therapy. Then we also have, we do horse work with the kids. So we have them engage with the horse in a therapeutic way, which is also another experiential. We do art. So we do collages. A lot of times we have them see their bad thing that has happened to them and then change it as they've worked through their work. What does that look like now? What is the resolution to that? How does that change for them? And we do also another tile project in that same area with that same idea of how does it change now that you've gone through this, and how can you see it in a better light, that bad thing
and
that
we
has happened.
even do some kind of symbolic work, or you can do some anger work, but get your anger out on some solid objects and
we
some things like
we
that.
believe that anger is not a bad thing. We believe that we need to express it. And so we allow for our kids to do some anger exercises when we do that. So
we have another question here. It's how many hours of therapy a day do we have? So for the group retreat, we are making it a 9 to 5 format. So now it's not all therapy from 9 to 5. It's some experiential and lunch and some
psychoeducation,
some teaching. But it'll be 9 to 5 because there are a lot of people who are going to commute because they do have to go home in the evening, but at least during the day they'll feel like they left town and they went somewhere special and beautiful for that 9 to 5. And in individual therapy, as we said, it's typically 3 hours a day, 2 to 4 kind of range, depending on states of exhaustion and things like that. So and that'll be, I hope that answered that question. Let's see, I have another one coming in here. Are groups broken down by age and gender? Also, where's the individual counseling done? Okay, that's a great question. Thank you. The groups are broken down. The more people we have, the more specific we can be in how we break it down.
Yes.
So age, gender, but actually probably what would trump age and gender is type of trauma. So people who've experienced a loss versus other things. So we'll just carefully look at how we put that together, how we put the people together. The individual counseling done at this site for this retreat that's happening, the house is a large main house, and there are other smaller houses, but it has rooms in it and a large entertainment pavilion. So we will actually be doing those in private rooms. So the individual will be done privately, not in front of the others.
Yes.
I hope that answered the question. If I didn't answer that, could you write me back and tell us what else you'd like to ask? All right, that's okay. What is the location? This location for this group retreat is in the Redland. So it's on 248th Street in the Redland. And then what's the retreat center like? Oh, it's just this beautiful 20-acre property with a water lagoon with waterfalls and nature trails through tropical woods and a big, beautiful house.
And a cabin.
And a big infinity pool. And it'll be great.
It's beautiful, yes.
All right, and I got to thank you from our earlier questioner. You're welcome, and we look forward to seeing you there. I think you're registered. Well, I don't see any more questions coming in. Is there anything you'd like to finish off and say?
I just want to say that it's definitely an investment in time, a sacrifice sometimes, but it's going to have such long-term positive effects on your life, because that's what it's done for me, and so I just want to encourage you that even if you feel a little bit scared or just be faithful in thinking that taking care of yourself is the right thing, that it's important, that it's worth it.
It's worth it.
Yes.
You're worth it.
Yes.
I think for me, I just want to say I'm really inspired about it. This is a dream come true for me. I've been working at this for about 5 years. We do the kids bounce programs, and for years I've had people say, when are you going to do this for adults? And the answer is next week, finally. And I waited years for that. And we also did a mini version of this for a group of 35 missionaries in Central Florida just 2 weeks ago. And I just watched the power of that. I saw people's lives change. We brought 6 therapists and cranked through that with a group of missionaries who all had a a shared trauma. And so I just see it work. I see people's lives change. We're getting the results from those people right now, and thank you notes and answers. And so I'm inspired. So I can't wait to see you guys there. And if it's not this time, then in an individual or next time.
Thank you for listening and being here.
All right, we're going to sign off. Thank you guys.